Hi, Clint.
I'm just sending a message to everybody in the waiting room. I think maybe only want to say just start in just a minute. I need a minute just to get a document pulled up here.
Uh, Not necessarily. I mean, you certainly might get value out of it. We're going to be talking about onboarding, which is something that our clients are going to be doing, like welcoming parents into the school.
You want to stay or leave?
Sure. I mean, stay.
I'm just gonna go. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
I'm so worried. Policy, they're not very responsible.
Yes, you do. That's more important.
All right.
Why
So
don't
Tim, I do have a bit of a not that would the onboarding guide that I showed you before.
Mhm.
I turned that into a presentation
Okay.
with the magic of Claude. So
Okay. All right. Well, can we let these people in?
yeah, let's let him in. Let's let him in. All right. Hey, everybody. We're just getting
Clint,
rolling.
are we currently recording to the cloud?
Well, that's a good question.
Let's make sure.
Yes, we are recording.
Great. Okay, I'll remember to take the beginning off. Hi, Jessica. How are you? Hi, Heather. Sorry you can't join me in wherever it is. Maryland. I think it was Barry. All right. Clint, maybe you could turn off the waiting room.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, no more waiting room. Here comes everybody.
All right, everyone. Love gathering together at this time of the day. Lunchtime for some of you, 11 o'clock for some of you, whatever. It's a good experience. Clint, you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Selden. I'm the president of the Montessori Foundation, and this is our weekly webcast, Finding the Perfect Match. This is one of two weekly webcasts that we do at this point. We do one on Thursdays at 1 o'clock Eastern called the Independent School Leaders Forum. This one specifically tends to focus on issues having to do with making the phone ring, welcoming families on campus, building community, reducing attrition, all those different things. And today we're talking about onboarding, which has to do with the idea of when you toured a family, they've applied, you've decided to offer them admission, they've signed their agreement. What do you do from then? Especially if you're signing people up many months before the school year starts. The other thing is, what can you do in the first 90 to 180 days to really build community so that your teachers and your school enjoy less attrition over the years, the more support, less aggravation. So, Clint, I think you're going to do some of the talking today, and I'm going to kibitz. So, let's go.
Yeah, well, really, I think it could be a conversation just thinking about, okay, we work obviously really hard to get those families signed up, enrolled, collecting all their documents, right? Doing all getting them to respond and filling out what they need to fill out. And that's obviously happening right now, or for many of you, you've already completed that, or you have documents out there pending. And as we roll into May and into the summer, there's kind of this down period, this downtime where between now and end of August, beginning of September, whenever you start, there's really a lot of communication that can happen. I think, Tim, we've talked about, there's probably not enough communication happening from a lot of the schools that we talk to. And that's obviously why we're talking about this session, which is how do you get those new families onboarded that just signed up? This is their first kid, their first school, their first Montessori school, their first whatever school, right? And they're excited. You know, we like to call this the honeymoon phase, where they're excited, they're engaged, they're looking forward to that first day. But there's obviously a lot to prepare for. Especially, is everybody here a Montessori school? Is there anybody here that's not a Montessori school? Just out of curiosity. Let's see. Type, yeah, either answer. You type in a two if you're not a Montessori school. Type in a one if you are in the chat box. Everything is freezing on my end. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because everything seemed to be freezing on my end. Let's go back. Here we go. I see a lot of ones, a lot of ones. So we've got a lot of Montessori schools. So yeah, it obviously makes our communication a lot easier. So yeah, especially when it comes to Montessori, right? Um, Families that are truly new to Montessori, how do we get them acclimated? How do we get them, give them the education they need? Start setting expectations. I think, and that's probably a word that you're going to hear a lot about, which is setting expectations. How do we do that? And so, Tim, as we dive in, anything to add, just in regards to just kind of the why behind onboarding?
My favorite phrase, a Montessori child can never be replaced. I mean, you could fill a spot, but when a child leaves our school, to go to public school or the Catholic school or the prep school down the street, it takes a hole out of our classes. It really changes the whole dynamic of what we're offering families and children. So we really need to do everything we can. And let's face it, today's parents are not the same as the parents of 30 years ago. They don't want to come out for parent ed. They aren't looking for parent ed. They may become groupies, but it's the same old story of it's hard to get parents to stay after age 4. And in some states where there's free public 4-year-old program, it's hard to get them to stay for age 4. So onboarding is everything. It's really, really important. And you can't assume your teachers are going to be good at this. Some of them are, but most of them are spending their summer just trying to get over the last school year. So we need to onboard really well, and we need to make it easy because none of us have endless hours. We've got to work smart.
All right. And when we talk about working smart as well, I mean, we're going to talk about in this session the communication needs to happen, ideas for what to send, when to send it, how to send it. It's going to be a lot of email, text messages, things like that. But let me ask you this as we get started here. Does anybody here have like a formal onboarding process that happens, through the summer, that whether it's activities, whether it's trying to get families on campus or communication, does anybody have a formal onboarding process that they want to share that they currently use? And if you don't have a formal onboarding process, go ahead and type in a two or a no. The spotty, mainly parent-led activities.
I would wager that most of our schools, what they do is either the week before school reopens, they invite the families to show up with their child for maybe an hour visit, maybe coffee, cookies, and see the classroom. They might have a new parent orientation gathering either some night the week before school starts or during the week or two after school starts. That's probably what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Because onboarding is a lot of different things. One of the biggest things that leads parents to any private school is they're looking for friends. They're looking for a circle. They may have come with a circle. It might be that you've got a circle of friends that gathers at a particular school. But ultimately, what they really want to know is who's my kids' teachers? Who are the parents in my kids' class? Am I going to like these people? Do I feel welcome here? Is this okay? Who are my kids' classmates going to be? Do we really want them at our house? These are typical first year things. And if you're a Montessori school, as most of us seem to be today, if you run a toddler class, you're probably seeing some pretty darn good onboarding at the toddler level. Isn't that true, Heather? Because normally toddler parents come hungry and really easy to please. They just want to talk to people. They're looking at the toddler guide, the assistant to infancy, as somebody who knows far more than they do and can actually get their kid to behave, or they hope they can get their kid to behave. I mean, they're so incredibly anxious for answers. And so we think what they really want is education. And they do in the toddler year. After that, not so much normally. Clint, back to you.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I was just looking through the chat. Some, spotty, send video to families, welcome letters over the summer, meet the week before, all good stuff. Yeah, let's keep rolling along. So let's keep going. So yeah, the why. And we've talked a little bit about the why. Um, I mean that's kind of a strong statement on saw back there, where it said it can set the stage for the entire first year. I think you can start setting really good expectations. Um, because what we find is that they get really excited, for the first day. That by the time you get mid-year, that excitement just tends to wane. You don't hear from them as much. So, um, if you can try to close information gaps, close expectation gaps, and close connection gaps, like Tim, you had said, they just want to start making friends, being a part of the community. Um, so how do we start building that? And because there's a lot of questions we always talk about from the marketing side, just to get them enrolled. We like to say, when you're doing your marketing, when you're running ads, when you're writing content, the thing that's really going to help get somebody over the line and fill out an application many times is just answering the questions that are going on in their mind beforehand. Because they've got questions, they've got concerns. They may not be communicating them to you, but they're talking to people, they're asking. And so even after they sign up, it's like, okay, what are the most common questions that we need to answer? What are the most common questions, objections, concerns, things that people are worried about, and just start getting that communication out there, even if it's just an email, right? It's, what should you expect your first day? What should you expect on your 30th day? And so even though those questions haven't been asked yet, we can start setting expectations and just building really great trust and rapport. And I think that's one of the big elements of this. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. We don't have to go through all of these. I want to kind of highlight, yeah, reduce anxiety, build alignment. And Tim, stop me if we want to stop on any of these, because also what I want to get to is what could that communication be like? And what we're going to share doesn't have to be you use this exact model, but I think it also shows the frequency of communication that we would typically recommend that we see works the best. But also, we can get really creative with it. I know, Tim, I feel like it was a while ago we had a session on a similar topic, which was, how do you get them on campus before they come on campus, right? It was like, what could you do to get them on campus before school starts? Am I remembering that correctly? That we had a session along those lines?
We've done a lot, but I mean, I
I
think that
know.
was the whole idea of building community with our families is a recurring theme, and we've approached it in all kinds of angles. I think that, the idea of a prepared environment for families is really key. I mean, what we know is that parents today are in the TikTok or the Instagram generation. They're looking for things that are under 3 minutes. They're not looking for a 3 hour meeting. They don't want to get childcare. They don't want to drive at night. Um, they just don't want. Um, and so it's harder for most schools. It's more challenging today than ever because parents just aren't that into us unless they are. I mean, some of them are. Some of them are hungry, hungry, hungry for just the kind of connection that we can provide. but many of them sort of drift in and out of our lives, and only a small percentage stay with us more than a few years. And I think what we're trying to do is increase the percentage that stay with us down through the years is the ideal, so that whether you go through sixth grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, 12th grade, you want as many of those families as started to be there with you at graduation as possible. So again, we're trying. By the way, this whole playbook that this today's presentation is based on is a part of the Montessori Family Alliance 2.0, which has always been a program, including Tomorrow's Child magazine, a lot of other things intended to try to help schools form deeper connections with their families. Because let's face it, I mean, if they're paying tuition at your school, the last person they trust is you, because they know you want them to stay because you want them to keep paying. And so, from their point of view, they're looking for an excuse to break up. So, anyway, you've got something on the screen about the three phases of the 90-day journey.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked a lot about the why and how it can help, and I think everybody realizes it. But then I think it's like, okay, how do we do it? What should we do? Let's brainstorm some ideas because, like I said, a lot of this is going to be different communication channels. But yeah, I think we can actually really get creative. Whether it's parent-led events, having some sort of social event at the school ahead of time. Um, there's no one way to do this. You can get, like I said, really creative, and I'm sure many of you are a lot more creative than I am when it comes to this. So, but if I think if we kind of lay this out, it's okay. We've got to welcome them, prepare them, getting them to understand how this all works, and then start building those relationships and making them really feel a part of the community. And so as we think about like what could this journey actually contain from a communication perspective, um, here's just an example, right? It could be 10 written emails, five we'll call human touch points, which the human aspect of communication these days is I feel like is waning, right? There's AI, there's all the different ways that we can communicate without picking up the phone and giving a call or even a personal text message. Um, but yeah, different human touch points. Also having adaptations for the different grade levels, whether it's toddler, primary, elementary, but they're likely going to have a lot different expectations and a lot different the first day of school for a toddler versus elementary. So thinking about how we might want to onboard them each differently, but then obviously, having it all your core messaging and mission shining through on all of that. So, and we'll talk about some examples. So now, how do we do this? So I will say I like to set this up as an automation. If you're using our software, so we have the Montessori Growth Suite software, which is a marketing admissions all-in-one platform. You can do your automated communication, but whether you're using ours or using something like a Constant Contact, a MailChimp, this is something where you could probably take an hour or two out of your week, prepare this messaging, and geez, now with AI, it's a lot easier to even create this. Um, Prepare some automated messages so that imagine this enrollment contract signed, documents in, they're enrolled, they're ready to go, taking care of all the logistics, right? They've made their payments or their first payment, their deposit, and it's May or June, right? Whatever you're accepting that. Okay, you've now got 2 to 3 months between starting school and then just getting school going. So you can load up some pre-built emails that, just as an example, day zero. Okay, welcome to the family. Even saying what is your first day going to look like? What is the inside of the Montessori classroom going to look like? And start preparing your child and yourself and just getting them ready. And then maybe just a call from the head of school, a personal note from one of the lead guides. I mean, certainly I've seen many schools will send something in the mail, right? Like a welcome package of sorts. So again, not one right way to do this, but just kind of putting together some ideas for how to do this. Um, Tim, any thoughts about that communication? Does anybody have any thoughts? Anybody doing this? Automating those emails that are going out?
Well, I mean, I think anything that makes the job easier. Again, from my experience, one of the most frequently asked for professional development workshops that we do for schools is how to build partnership with your families right from the start. I mean, that's something that you may want to think about having us do because teachers can't hear that too often. But the bottom line is teachers, generally speaking, are not great at communication, and they think that they're working really hard, and the parents feel like they don't even know who the teachers are. So, I mean, there's a disconnect between parent hunger and teachers' sense of being overwhelmed. And you can't make teachers do more than they can do. So, automating and having a real plan really helps. It really helps. And I can't recommend it enough.
All right, let's move right along. So then again, a lot of this can be automated. Um, Starting to set things up at home. Again, it's a lot about why Montessori is different. Let me go backwards. Yeah, bringing Montessori home, what your child is really learning. Because one of the things that again, since we're all kind of Montessori here, um, why families sometimes stay or don't stay, a lot of it has to do with their expectations of how Montessori is going to help them. I mean, at least from a lot of schools that I talk to, especially as we're talking about marketing and admissions and retention, it's so often here, and this goes a little bit beyond the scope of this conversation, but it kind of goes into this concept of, well, we're not going to stay past our the toddler years, or we're not going to stay past elementary because we're going to get them into the bigger school to prepare them for the high school. Like, I hear all those things about why retention, especially as they get a little bit older, is such a challenge. But if you're starting to set that groundwork from the beginning, or and that foundation from the beginning about why Montessori, why it might look different, what is your child really learning, and so that you're constantly, and this is, I sometimes I sound like a broken record with this, you're constantly reinforcing the value proposition, literally from day zero all the way through, every single year. And this doesn't have to be a one-time thing. I think the more that you can communicate this throughout the year as well, just continues to reinforce that value proposition. So again, emails can be about why Montessori, why does it look different, what they're really learning, maybe even seeing somehow an observation invitation if the time is appropriate, maybe just an informal check-in. Again, just little things. Stop me if you want me to stop at any point here. Um, Again, looking at your first month. So, what's been going on in the first month, becoming part of the Montessori family, parent education events, community events, formal welcome, maybe from another parent, which it sounds like many of you might be doing already, getting your current parents involved, parent ambassadors, whoever you have that's willing to get involved, schedule some calls, reach out to them. Hey, how are things going? How's your first month been? So, these are things that you can do from leading up to, and then especially those first 30, 60, 90 days that they're there. So by the time you get to January, they're that excitement is still there. They're not questioning why Montessori. They're not questioning about re-enrolling. It's probably one of the, I don't know if it's just a trend the last couple of years of just retention being a little bit lower than normal across the board. It used to be where families choose, that's where they're going to stay. Now it's just because they choose doesn't mean they're going to stay. They're constantly, it's the old grass is always greener, but it's more of that than ever. So the more communication that we can have and getting families really involved, the more likely they are to stay, both in that first year and the second year and onwards. So from a high level, looking at like a 90-day game plan, this is how we can, start to schedule it out. And we don't think we already went through a lot of this, but I think just looking at this is a lot of touch points that you're having. Some are automated, some are obviously manual outreach, but and all the ones that are colored in are more of the we'll call the human touch points. But you think from the moment they sign all the way through, day 90, they've had 5 human touch points, they've had 10 emails. That's a lot of communication. And certainly something's going wrong, by the way. It's like obviously they could have questions, concerns, something's happening. This is also a way to catch it, right? So it's not January, February, and they've been sitting on an issue, for months now that now it's like now they might not re-enroll. With all these touch points, it's a good way to catch things, especially if they aren't going as well as you or they would have hoped. How does everybody feel about this? Is anybody doing something along these lines? I know you kind of said a little bit, but would love to hear it, or any other ideas that you have that have worked really, really well that your parents love as part of the onboarding process.
People are fairly quiet today. So I think that, again, what we really want to say is that if you are part of the Montessori Family Alliance, whether you're joining for the first time or whether you've been a member and are just continuing, one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to get this very strong um, online forum where the parents can go in and it'll help them design their home. It'll answer all their questions. It'll help them with, I mean, there's so much in there, it's ridiculous. And one of the things we're going to be doing as well is working with all the member schools. And one of the things you're going to get is a playbook with not only the sort of sketching idea that you see here, we're going to give you a formal plan of on from the moment the child applies to the moment they're admitted to the first 180 days of school. There's going to be a whole plan of what to do and communications that you can customize. You can modify it to your heart's content, but it'll be an entire blueprint of exactly what to do. And if you're also working with Clint and the Montessori Enrollment Accelerator Program, if you're for marketing and recruitment, we can actually load this up for you so that it's in there and it's done automatically to all the parents in your school. And Gwen, I see that you're saying we're doing some of it, like the parent ambassadors and events, and inviting parents to come and observe, but it's not an organized system. And I think, again, ideally, it should be very, very organized. Not because you can't do things differently in one class than another. You can, and you can improvise. But the more you've got planned, the easier it is to actually do it. Glenn, I see you're about to talk about the human layer.
Yeah, I see. Maybe did you answer this? I saw there's a bunch of we do something similar. I feel like we do something similar. However, I do feel like we can do more to ensure parents are informed and educated on what Montessori is, how it compares to traditional education, and why the 3-year cycle is important, as it's very common that parents leave due to wanting a spot at their ideal school for elementary and high school. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I was referring to, where they're like, okay, I'm going to come here for Montessori, but then we're going to go to our this other school. It's like they already kind of have it in their mind, or maybe they don't have it in their mind, but yeah, if you could do anything possible to show why sticking with Montessori, the value there, and this is just one piece. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a human layer to this, which again we talked about, which is the nice part of nowadays. Yeah, you can automate so much of this stuff. Great, right? It's a tool that's going to save you time to automate a lot of that communication. But I try to say as much as possible that you know don't um, don't let automation deter you from picking up the phone. Nothing beats picking up the phone and having a conversation, especially nowadays. Or even just even if you can't get a hold of them over the phone, or maybe they don't want to be on the phone, even just a personal text message. Hey, how are things going? You ready for the first day of school? Or just a check-in message can be really, really helpful. So, yeah, just some ideas from a personal welcome call to introduction from the guide, in classroom observation, 30-day check-ins, community welcome events, which it sounds like some of you are kind of maybe doing some of these, maybe not all of them, or having them in a structured manner. And I think if you can just take it and put together your own onboarding process and templatize it, um, it'll make life really easy, both for you every single year. You really have to do this once, and then each year it's just maybe just some updates with dates and events and whatnot.
And again, the way I would think of it is if you've got a school with, let's say, 100 children or 150, some of you have smaller, some of you have larger. And if you keep two children more than you would have if you hadn't done this, what's that worth to you? And it's not just money, it's more than money. But the money alone, the average school is charging well over 1,000 a month. So that would be 12,000 a year, give or take, or 10,000 a year, whatever you're charging. And it doesn't take long to realize that a little bit of investment can pay enormous dividends. Jessica, you're asking about why observation in week 3. A lot of Montessorians believe you should wait for 6 weeks. Um, to be honest, the reason why that happens is that they're not normalizing their classrooms terribly well. Your classroom in 1 week should look like it's been running without any interruption. I mean, I still see Montessori classrooms where in May they're still trying to get the kids focused. So the whole issue is how can you create calmness, order, deliberation, executive function development, and so forth. So again, if you need a hand, one thing you can do is reach out to the Montessori Foundation and let's talk. We're here to help. We can help you think about what could your teachers do better that will cause more order, and why having parents in the classroom after just 3 weeks is not a bad idea. Because, one, you get lots of families who approach your school probably after the school year begins. They go to local elementary school or kindergarten, they realize this is not going to work, and they scramble and they contact you and say, do you have any openings? And maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you do, you want to be able to show them the classroom right away. So the idea that we need to wait 6 weeks because the kids will be disturbed if we bring an adult into the room to sit there in the observing chair, I'm sorry. I would argue that there are better ways. Think about Montessori in the glass classroom in the San Francisco Exposition in, what was it, 1915? I mean, that whole classroom was surrounded by adults, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of adults, and yet the kids went about their business. I think the issue is, do our teachers really know how to manage a classroom? And I may be, I don't know whether that makes sense, but it's something I'm happy to talk to you about.
All right. I think on my end, presentation wise, those are main things I want to go out get into, which was just again thinking about that timeline. And again, you don't have to use that exact timeline, or that exact messaging, but I think if it gets us to formalize the communication from automation to manual outreach, again, it helps families get more aligned. It helps them be a part of the community. And there's just going to be a natural trickle down effect, especially, in year 2 and year 3 and year 4, that you're constantly doing these things to reinforce why Montessori, reinforce yours particular value proposition, to really get families bought in, and both in two ways, actually. One is in retention, but also in having them spread the word. We all know word of mouth is the best marketing that we all have. So, this also feeds into really great word of mouth as well. That, as they're talking with friends and families, or their friends and relatives, like, yeah, I mean, I signed up for this, we signed up for the school, and they're so great. They're so great to talk to. They're just more positive things that they're going to be mentioning about you. So Anything that we can do that's kind of like every little piece of the puzzle to get families bought in, to keep them happy, and get them to be a part of the community.
One other thing I want to jump in here with Clint. Um, I think it was Jessica was mentioning that they tell the difference between Montessori and traditional. And I think that's great. On the other hand, I've been watching ever since AMS came out with that comparison. The average parent that talks to me says, I couldn't care less. I don't get it. That's not why I'm in Montessori. What they want to know is not why is Montessori different from. I mean, yeah, they do. What they really want to know is what have you done for me? What are
Yeah,
you doing for me? How are you making my life, my child's life, my family's life better? That's what they care about. And I think that really helps. By the way, see, Ala's asking if you could go back and show the timeline.
sure. Yeah, I'll just keep this up there. Is this the one that we want to look at, or do we want to look at? Like, I think this is the whole timeline. Yeah.
I think what you really want, Ala, is what we call the playbook. We have a whole playbook that Clint can put on the screen that shows all the different components of this, including sample text and so forth. And it's really very good. Bunky, I
Give it
couldn't
up.
agree with you more. This is very timely. I mean, we really have lots of meetings. Funky, remind me where you are in the world. Are you in the Southern Hemisphere?
Hello, Tim. I'm in Fort McMurray.
Oh,
Hello, everyone.
that's
Fort
right.
McMurray in Alberta, Canada.
There you are. Hi, Funky. It's good to talk to you. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're not in the Southern Hemisphere. You're in the colder hemisphere.
Ye-
Um, we do share
Yes,
the recording. You'll be getting an email with the recording, usually tomorrow, depending on how long
thank
it takes for us
you.
to get. Sure, sure. And remember, we also put these recordings on YouTube on the Montessori Foundation's YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you look up Montessori Foundation, and then you'll see our videos and our playlists. And this is typically on the playlist for finding the perfect match.
Thank you.
By the way, it's also included in the circle. So if you're doing either enrollment work with the Montessori Foundation, if you're using our enrollment accelerator program, which is how to make the phone ring and guide parents in and develop relationships, or if you're part of the Montessori Family Alliance, or if you are a consulting client of the foundation, you're going to be part of the circle, and we're going to have all kinds of resources in there, as well as a real community of school leaders just like us. Clint, back to you.
Well, that was the majority of what I wanted to go through. What I would say is, yeah, we've got a lot of really great things coming out with, this is something that's going to be part of the Montessori Family Alliance that we've been talking a little bit about the last couple of weeks. If you do need software to help you in automating this communication, again, we have the Montessori Growth Suite, um, which is software through Montessori Compass. And if you need more marketing support, um, we have, through the foundation.
We have the Grow Suite and more. That's where you get
Yeah,
the whole advertising and social media and all kinds of stuff. So I highly recommend any school that's not already doing this, you should be. And the reason why we're doing this is we've worked with Nito Marketing and Thrive and School Success and so forth. And frankly, we really believe that we are pretty darn good at this. We know how to fill schools, and we'd love to work with you if you're interested. Any other comments from anyone? Clint, could you put in the information about the Family Alliance? Because I think some people might find it useful to go in there and set up a free account. We call it the Montessori Navigator in terms of what is actually Abigail, the AI that powers this. You're looking inside of the Montessori Family Alliance right now, and in there is Tomorrow's Child magazine and articles and videos and so much more. I mean, we just did something about this, I think, last week. The bottom line is, if you're interested, go to that second um, link there, Montessori-navigator.versil.app, and set up a free account and just take a look and see if you like what you see. It's pretty darn cool. And again, if you keep one more parent for one more year, it will make everything. Shania is asking about the onboarding playbook and how that layout would be helpful. Clint, do you have that queued up? You can show them what it looks like.
Yeah, I believe this is it. Yeah, so this is an example one. And then, anybody that's a part of the Montessori Family Alliance also there's a fill in the blank one as well. But yeah, this is a full one that, you can kind of model, which the presentation we just went through kind of was based on this playbook, which is, again, everything we talked about, as well as, what those emails can be, what can be the outreach can be, as well as, I believe, the actual emails that are written. So here's, welcome email number one and email number two. So it's already kind of written and done.
Yeah, and again, if any of you want to have a conversation with me or Clint about any of this, please feel free. I mean, we're easy to reach. Um, Happy to set up a call. You can either put it in the chat now, or we can. I'll put in the link of where you can schedule a call at your convenience. And we're just happy to talk. And as we say, we're a nonprofit and we're here to help. That's how to schedule a call with me personally. And it's free, no obligation, and I'm not going to twist your arm. But if we can, we're here to help.
All right.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks, Clint.
All right, everybody.
Appreciate everyone joining us, Heather. Always good to talk to you, dear. Funky, same. Hi, Jessica. Again, feel free. We're easy to reach. Gwen, so just let us know if we can help. Hi,
Thanks,
Heather.
Tim. Hi, I'm just going to use my voice because I'm not very good at the chat. So thank you very much for these. I stop in whenever I can, and I actually am having an open house tonight, so your timing is perfect. I'm going to bring these ideas to my staff. I think we try very hard to do some of these things, but I think we can do better. So thank you.
Well,
Great.
again, if you ever want a virtual or an in-person PD, I do anything from a 90-minute to a 2-day workshop on building community and partnership with the families of your school.
I think the first step I have to do is get my teachers on board.
Well,
That's the first thing.
that's what the
Yeah.
PDs are all about.
Yeah, for sure. I think they get a little intimidated, I think, by parents, and I want to see if I can help them just relax and be the people they are. So we'll see.
Anything I can do to help, just reach
Okay,
out.
great. Thank you very much. By the way, I use your book, the one that the families one. What's it called again? I
Montessori
promote
for
that for
every
new.
family.
Yeah, I promote that one for all the new families. I try and usually they go on Amazon to get that. Is that the best way?
Yeah, or you get it from the foundation. Get them signed if that's important to you. But we
Well,
actually
that's
have a
nice.
study guide that somebody created for it. So if you reach out to me, Heather, I can send you a copy of that study guide.
Okay, that's
I
good to know.
think it's a year-long study guide.
Wow, that would be cool. I'd like to see that.
And that'll be one of the things, by the way, we're going to do in real time through the Family Alliance. One of the
Okay.
things that I like about what Clint and the foundation have partnered to do is within that app, we can literally do videos. We can have Zoom built into the app where everyone's signed in and we're talking to each other, and it's not open to the general public. And it's like this, but on a bigger scale. And our
Well,
intention is to let people, yeah, go
would
deeper into
you
all this.
would you mind in future when when I come to these things, because I'm much more I would prefer to do the talking. Is that okay instead of using the chat? Because I'm not very good at
Oh,
the chat.
no,
Yeah.
we'd rather you open your mic and talk.
Okay. Oh, you asked for it.
That's
Okay.
just fine. Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
And Suba, please hear that. We look forward to it.
All right.
Anytime,
Thank
Heather.
you.
It's
Thank
intended
you
to be a
very much. I
conversation.
have to go and get ready now, and they're going to say, "Oh dear, she's had another seminar." That's what happens.
Have a good day, dear.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Clint, thank you for everything. Thanks to
All
all of
right.
you who are still
Thanks,
online. We
everybody.
will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.